Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. I think we've still got some folks trickling in, but we've got a lot to cover. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So I thank you all for being here today for this industry workshop on enhancing diversity and outreach strategies. This is a really exciting and important workshop, and we're really thrilled to have an all-star cast of panelists here with you today to talk about their work that they're doing and things that they've been learning as they've been doing this outreach work. I will just quickly go through a short overview of how NEFCure got here, and then I'm going to introduce our speakers. So NEFCure, as you all are aware, this is really near and dear to us because for us, you really can't talk about rare kidney disease without talking about how it affects people in communities of color. And so we had the opportunity in 2019 to really begin forming partnerships and really seeking to doing this work in earnest. And that led to the formal launch of our Health Equity Initiative with our partner HEAL Collaborative in 2020. And through our work with HEAL, we were able to reach new community-based organizations, organizations of faith, and other people who are doing this work in the community. And we have some of them with us here today. And in February of this year, we had the opportunity to hire Deja Ivy to join NEFCure staff. And Deja's been on board with us, continuing our relationships in our pilot sites in Atlanta and Chicago, but also expanding our work to begin in earnest making inroads with our community partners of Asian American and Native Hawaiian Pacific Islanders community organizations. And I will just say that part of the philosophy of how NEFCure views this work is that it's really important to us that we are able to do what we say we'd like to do and to really make an impact. And so this work is really intentional for us. And that's why we really intentionally chose to start with working on creating more awareness of APOL1 kidney disease, especially in Black and African American communities. And that's why we then this year felt that we were ready to begin doing more specific outreach to reach Asian Americans and Native Hawaiian Pacific Islanders who are at risk for rare kidney disease, including IgA nephropathy. And so with that, I am thrilled to introduce our speakers today. So with us, we have Dr. Jason Cobb, who is an associate professor of medicine at the Emory University Division of Renal Medicine. Dr. Cobb's research and teaching interests include glomerular nephritis, home dialysis, and health disparities. He serves on the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee for the American Society of Nephrology and Emory Department of Medicine. He's passionate about medical education and serves as the Associate Program Director of the Emory Nephrology Fellowship Program and Faculty Advisor for the Kidney Disease Screening and Awareness Program, Emory Chapter. Thank you for being with us, Dr. Cobb. Also with us today is Chien-Chi Huang, the founder of the Asian Breast Cancer Project and the Executive Director of Asian Women for Health. Ms. Huang's personal cancer journey led her to participate in national as well as local efforts on health equity and racial justice. Her remarkable passion for the community has changed the healthcare landscape for Asian women and created a pipeline of future leaders and peer health educators. Thank you for joining us today, Chien-Chi. We also have Brandy Whitney, MPH and MCHES, who serves as the Health Promotion Coordinator for New Life Community Ministries, a faith-based social service agency in metropolitan Atlanta. Brandy earned her Master's of Public Health degree at Morehouse School of Medicine in Atlanta, Georgia. There, her public health foundation was formed in health equity and social determinants of health frameworks. Brandy has over 15 years in health promotion and disease prevention. Her specialty areas are chronic disease prevention, health literacy, coalition and capacity building, and partnership development. She also served as a leader in assisting for a local board of health receiving its premier accreditation. Thank you for joining us, Brandy. We also have Princess May Visconde, MPH, who is a community engagement manager at the Asian and Pacific Islander American Health Forum. In her role, Princess manages a network of more than 150 community-based organizations, leads programs, and advocates for diverse communities. She is committed to leading with empathy, dedication, integrity, and humility, while creating space for diverse communities to feel connected, supported, and heard. Thank you for joining us, Princess. And last but not least, we have Deja Ivy, MSRD and LD, who serves as the Associate Director of Community Health at NEFCURE, overseeing our health equity initiative. Deja came to NEFCURE with clinical and community experience leading health programming and now focuses on health disparities with FSGS and IgA nephropathy. Her interest in health equity began during her time in clinical settings when she saw people of color disproportionately impacted by disease and hospitalizations. Deja is also a published nutrition researcher by the American Society of Nutrition and is a renal registered dietitian. And I am moderating for Deja today so that she could join us as a panelist. So thank you, Deja. So with that, we will go into our first presentation. So I'm going to switch over and have Princess lead us.
Awesome. Thank you, Lauren.
Let me just make sure that I'm doing this correctly. Okay, can everyone see the slides?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, great.
Okay, happy Wednesday, everyone. As Lauren mentioned, my name is Princess May Visconde, and I am a Community Engagement Manager at the Asian and Pacific Islander American Health Forum, also known as just the Health Forum. Thank you, Deja and NEFCURE, for reaching out to allow me to speak today and for the invitation to speak among other outstanding panelists with us. Next slide.
One moment, please.
Okay, so here's a brief overview of what I'll discuss today. I'll talk a little bit more about the Health Forum, our national network, some of our policy priorities, highlights and resources, and highlighting some of the work our community-based organizations are doing. Next slide. So the Health Forum is the oldest and largest health advocacy organization working with Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander communities, also known as ANHPI. We work across the nation in U.S. territories and U.S. affiliated Pacific jurisdictions by providing policy and political analysis, research, data support, and effective community strategies. The Health Forum supports local ANHPI communities to have an influence on local, state, and national policy. We provide our CBOs with grants, training, technical assistance, and consulting. The Health Forum is a critical resource that communities can mobilize and grow stronger in the coalition and organizational structures. So our community-based organizations are a great point of the Health Forum because they are doing work on the ground and are part of the community and know exactly the community's needs. Next slide. So here is a quick image of where our community-based organizations are. And so the dark gray is where the states that they are located. So we have over 150 community-based organizations across the country in 41 states and the US affiliated Pacific Islands. And as I mentioned, we love our community-based organizations because they are doing incredible work where they are. And in the light gray, we're always trying to find community organizations in those states as well. So if you know any ANHPI serving organizations, please let us know because we always would love to connect with them. Next slide. And then here are some of the Health Forum's policy priorities, which include language access, data disaggregation, equity in COVID-19 response, immigrant access to healthcare, funding for AN and HPI communities, access to Medicaid, Medicare, and ACA marketplace, health equity, and diversity. So these are policy priorities we had for 2022, which drive our mission and vision for the work that we're doing. And this gives us an influence on what programs we have for in the Health Forum during 2022. Next slide. So I really wanted to, again, highlight the work that the Health Forum is doing, but also highlight the incredible work our community-based organizations are doing. So here's just a few highlights. One is our annual CBO survey. We send it out to our national network of 150 CBOs. And we also send it to ANHPI organizations that we are aware of across the nation. And it's an opportunity to learn about the needs, priorities, and strengths of the organizations within our network. To use to identify partners for potential projects that could involve subgranting, technical assistance training, resource sharing, and other opportunities. Some of the information that we gather with the CBO survey is figuring out what services, health and non-health related services that our CBOs are providing with and without dedicated funding. It shares with us what they're doing without dedicated funding and allows us to kind of find ways that we can provide grant services to them to make sure that they're getting funded for the services they're providing in the community. We also have a monthly video podcast titled The Hot Pot with Princess and the DJ. My colleague and I co-host this video podcast every month, and it's a great way to showcase all of the incredible work our CBOs are doing. We invite different leaders in the community to talk about different topics. Most recently, we are highlighting monkeypox awareness. And in the past, we've done things around Filipino History Month, ANHPI Heritage Month, Black History Month, cardiovascular disease, spiritual and mental health, and other topics to discuss. We also have a capacity for a health team here at the Health Forum, which focuses on HIV and AIDS. So they focus on community-based organizations, not just within the ANHPI space, but also other BIPOC community organizations to change makers of HIV prevention, care, and treatment. And they also have a national learning community where they share information and also train managers. Next slide. And then continuing on with some of those highlights, Medicaid, Medicare, and ACA, which is also one of our policy priorities. We work on open enrollment, and we've been working, I believe, with open enrollment since open enrollment 5 with some of our CBOs doing that work. Currently, we have a navigator program initiative to increase patient and marketplace navigation, access to Medicaid and Medicare, outreach to communities, for them to hire and train additional community health workers, patient navigators, or Pacific Islander navigators, also known as PINs in Pacific Islander communities. They have been doing this work without actually having the certification of community health worker or patient navigator. So this is able to fund them to get state or nationally certified. We also do work around chronic diseases. So to reduce health disparities among racial and ethnic populations. On the right, you'll see that we released a infographic on managing diabetes during the holidays, and this is always translated in select ANHPI languages. We have kidney disease infographics as well. And then next we have COVID-19. As you know, BIPOC communities, especially ANHPI communities, were greatly impacted by COVID-19. And so we found that a lot of our partners were doing work around COVID-19 without dedicated funding. They were translating resources that weren't provided by the government at the time, or they were just translating general awareness about what COVID-19 was, because we found that our ANHPI communities had no idea, and there was mistrust in the government. And so we had community leaders going out into these communities, sharing what COVID-19 was, sharing vaccination information, and just creating vaccine sites within the churches that they were serving in. And so we also found that there was an increase in anti-Asian hate. So we actually created a What is a Hate Crime Toolkit as well early on during the pandemic. And we've translated a lot of our resources around COVID-19 or vaccinations in general in over 30 Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander languages. Next slide. Again, the Health Forum wouldn't be the Health Forum without our community and the community that we're serving. And so I really wanted to highlight some of the pictures that our community has shared and the stories that they've shared. And so here are some pictures directly from our community partners about events that they've had, blessings for new buildings, drive-through clinics, and just sharing just various work that they're doing within the community. Annually, the Health Forum also has their Health Equity Awards. So it's an event honoring AN and HPI health equity champions. We held ours back in June. We honored a congresswoman in California. We did a community-based organization, and we also honored a filmmaker who's filming around Asian Americans. And we also have our Voices Conference. It's our annual conference that gathers healthcare leaders, stakeholders, advocates to explore and discuss health equity and health justice. And we had our event in October with over 200 participants from the ANHPI communities. And it was a space for really them to gather together since the pandemic. We've had this event in person in a while, and it was really just an opportunity for them to meet in person because we've been virtual, and even just reconnecting because we're all working in the same communities and we're collaborating together often. And it was so great to be able to reconnect, see everyone in person, and just kind of embrace one another and acknowledge the hardships of COVID-19 and all of the work that we're doing, and really just coming together and sharing all of the incredible work that we've all accomplished in the past 2.5 years. Next slide. And that is all. So thank you for listening, and I'll pass it back over to Lauren.
Thank you so much, Princess. I'm sure that this work must have been hyper complicated by the restrictions during COVID. So I can't imagine how good it must have felt to be back in person with everybody. So thank you. So as a reminder, please feel free to put your questions in the chat or in the Q&A box, and we will go through questions for all the panelists at the end. But I will be turning it over now to Dr. Cobb.
Hello. I'd like to say thank you to NEFCURE, and also thanks, Lauren, for navigating my slides today.
Absolutely. Okay. All right. So thank you, Dr. Cobb.
I'm Jason Cobb. I'm associate professor at Emory, and I'm a nephrologist in the Renal Medicine Division. And I've been a faculty member for 11 years now. And one thing I think anyone knows, I'm very passionate about diversity, the pipeline, and educating our trainees. So I serve on the Department of Medicine DEI Council, and we're a newer council here at Emory. We started about 4 years ago, but we really were proud of the department diversity mission that we came up with. The Department of Medicine is committed to recruiting, retaining, and supporting outstanding faculty, trainees, and staff from diverse ethnic, gender, sexual orientation, and racial backgrounds. And by increasing the diversity of our workforce, the department seeks to improve health and eliminate disparities in healthcare. Next slide. And my particular interests, the ones that I will highlight today in red, I'm a co-investigator for our NIH R25 grant, which is a summer undergraduate program in Emory Renal Research, which we call SUPER. Faculty advisor for Kidney Disease Screening and Awareness Program, the Emory chapter, KDSAP. NEFCURE, Health Equity Steering Committee, which I've really enjoyed participating in over the last 1.5 years, and that's how we got involved with NEFCURE with our screening events. And I have a glomerulonephritis clinic at Emory Midtown, where I see patients with rare kidney diseases such as FSGS and lupus nephritis, others such as ASN DEI Committee, working with ACGME, which is the Accreditation Council for Graduate Medical Education, and I'm representing ASN. We're working on Equity Matters, which is a new program that we're launching across the country to try to improve teaching and equity, but also improving diversity in our graduate medical education programs. And I'm serves as the associate program director of the Nephrology Fellowship Program. Next slide. So SUPER, the Summer Undergraduate Program in Emory Renal Research, it's a NIH sponsored group, and it's a 10-week research program that happens in the summer. The students are assigned to a nephrology mentor where they perform research in the lab. It's not, so I get asked often by people at Emory about when is this diversity summer program starting. But actually, it's not a diversity summer program. It's actually an NIH program for enhancing interest in these particular groups in nephrology, urology, and hematology. But we have made an effort to make sure that we have a diverse group in our summer program each year. And there are programs across the country, Vanderbilt, Harvard, others that have these NIH R25s in the kidney, urology, and hematology space. But we've really worked on our diversity. I think the big thing has been with our partners. We have worked with a diverse group of partners that we can go to each year to advertise and get applicants from these programs. So being here in Atlanta, we have the pleasure of having historically Black colleges and universities such as Spelman College and Morehouse College, which are in the city. I'm a Morehouse graduate myself and went through the undergrad program. Also at Emory, there are specific groups within the university such as fraternities, sororities that we can go to try to get diverse applicants. And there's a it's a national program, the Lewis Stokes Alliance for Minority Participation. And we have worked with the University of Georgia site, or LSAMP, to get diverse students from University of Georgia. And I think one of the questions in the chat, yes, this is actually an all undergraduate program, 10-week program with these programs across the country. So all the students are undergrads in the NIH R25 programs through KUH. And also we have really increased the diversity of our topics. So I've run the didactics program. We have gave talks on health disparities. We have provided shadowing opportunities for these students, well, the ones that are pre-med, because everyone is not pre-med. You have to be interested in going into a PhD program or an MD program. So they want to work on building the medical and also the research pipeline. And we offer opportunities to shadow at Grady Memorial Hospital, which is our underserved indigent care hospital here in Atlanta, and they go to the Nephrology Fellows Clinic and shadow fellows at our Grady Clinic. And also they get opportunity to participate in our community service programs during the summer also. Next slide. So our community service program. So I originally got started through a grant through the American Society of Nephrology, ASN Kidney Maps, mentoring and assessment program for students. Unfortunately though, the ASN Kidney Maps funding didn't last long term. It was for 2 years and now they're not funding the program. So we had to look at other ways to fund. So we still kept doing these screening events in the community, but there was at least a 3 or 4 year period where it was from personal funds or sometimes some extra funds for our division. But funding from in academic medicine from your division can be tough at times. So we found KDSAP, Kidney Disease Screening and Awareness Program. It started by Lili Shao at Harvard, and now they have grant funding for satellite sites across the country. So I'm the founding faculty advisor for the Emory chapter. And it's been a really popular program with undergraduate students here at Emory. We have a diverse group of students. They go into the community. We do screening events with our community partners. And these screening events, we concentrate on kidney disease. So when we first started, we was doing blood pressure checks, checking for diabetes and doing glucose monitoring, checking weight and doing BMI measurements, and educating about kidney disease. Once we got the KDSAP funding, and now we're an official undergraduate group, just like any fraternity or sorority at Emory. Now we can apply for funds through the Student Government Association at Emory. Now we have a urinalysis machine where we now can do a dipstick and do a urinalysis examination and look for proteinuria and hematuria in our patients. This has been a great program. Between Kidney Maps and KDSAP, we have now 9 years straight have been doing kidney screenings. We were on hold for the pandemic initially, but I kept the program going by, instead of just stopping the program when we couldn't do the screenings, that we started talking about giving topics about career. So they started having how to get into medical school talks, nephrology career opportunities, where we had panels with nephrologists, transplant physicians, etc. But one thing that we really picked up on was starting to look at diversity issues and disparities in medicine. So this article here, Hidden in Plain Sight, Reconsidering the Use of Race Correction in Clinical Algorithms. As many of you may know, race and kidney disease function tests, so estimated GFR, really got a lot of attention. So KDSAP, the Emory chapter, really got interested in this. So myself and with the students, we led efforts during the early pandemic to remove race from estimated GFR kidney function reporting at Emory. And in the picture, this is one of our screenings from a mall at South DeKalb Mall in Atlanta, and another one with one of our church partners, and actually one of our retired dialysis nurses who's helping the students attain their blood pressure. Next slide. And I won't go into a lot of depth on the last screening event because we have Brandon from New Life Ministries, but we just had an event on December 3rd where we had a screener event with our partners, and we really enjoyed it. NephCure, as I put on the slide, talking about APOL1, risk variance in kidney disease. So another thing that we added with partnership with NephCure and collaborating with the HEAL Collaborative, we've been able to add APOL1 talks, disparity talks about testing for APOL1 in patients with looking for kidney disease and also rare kidney disease. We're not at the point of testing, but we're definitely at the point of educating the students about it and educating the public about it. And just at the last screening, we had a patient with FSGS that was lost to follow up, and was able to connect her with partners at the church and also with Lauren and NephCure to get that person back in. And also had some patients who had needed more education about kidney disease in general. So we talked about APOL1 and was able to connect them with the NephCure partners. Next slide. So just some pictures from some of our kidney disease screening events. So KDSAP, and also formerly when we was with Kidney Maps with ASN. So we have to make sure we have mutually beneficial relationships with our community partners. So you need to ask your community partners, what are their needs? A lot of times people had given feedback that they felt like people from Emory, people from other things in Atlanta will come in for their one-time event, maybe use it for publicity, but won't continue a relationship. Well, with us, we make sure that we have continued communication with our partners, also do things that could benefit them and also us, making sure you have a community partner with the infrastructure. We definitely had times where we learned in the past that some of our community partner people that come to us, we have to have people that have infrastructure that we can possibly use and have a good screening. Also, these things are more than just health screenings too, they're multi-purpose. So you're doing the screening, community service, educating about kidney disease, but also taking this opportunity to educate the students about nephrology as a field, as a nephrologist and also as a researcher. Mentoring opportunities, senior trainees development, so our fellows get a chance to mentor the medical students and the undergraduate students. Faculty development, our faculty are getting opportunities to volunteer with KDSAP, with Kidney Maps, help build their career, but also get opportunities to connect with students that they wouldn't have the opportunity to connect with. And also funding opportunities. We have used these screening events and we've learned now we have successfully gotten grants twice to continue these screening events. Next slide. And I want to end, I also have a glomerulonephritis clinic. I see a lot of patients with rare kidney diseases such as FSGS, but also lupus nephritis. And this is a poster from ASN Kidney Week 2022. And one thing, I won't go into depth on the poster, but we was working with AstraZeneca and we were doing a study looking at biomarkers associated with lupus nephritis. And one thing that we are really proud of, and they really wanted to point out too from the study, we was able to do this as a single center. 47 patients suspected of lupus nephritis were enrolled. We see a lot of lupus nephritis. And we was asking patients to allow us to do a fourth pass or extra sample for research purposes. They're looking for biomarkers. But one thing you can see from this study, 90% of the patients were Black. And one thing that we really wanted to point out, and also coming from a single center, they really thought having a racially concordant study coordinator, we have an African-American female serving as the study coordinator, and myself being a co-investigator on the grant really helped with enrollment of this study in a very underserved patient population. Next slide. And just want to point out, going to the pipeline, increasing the diversity in our pipeline helps so much. It helps with community engagement, give us, myself, Emory University, a chance to give back to the community. Community service definitely helps these screeners events with prevention of kidney disease and educating the public. But this long term will improve our patient care, also improve our research as we've shown using diversity efforts to our research studies. But also long term, these will improve diversity of the workforce, both clinical and research-wise. I like to use this 5 guys. When I first became associate program director of the fellowship program at Emory, our graduating class were 5 male students, 5 male physicians. They were great. I love them to death, but we really had to work on diversity in our program. And since we have really worked on holistic review, the way we advertise our program, we have really worked, we up to a point now that our program is 50% female and a third underrepresented minority. So we're really proud of that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Cobb. And I don't know how you fit all of this in, but it was so great to see you on Saturday. And I think the image of seeing a long line of people who'd been undergoing their screening, waiting to speak with you is like really impactful for me and was really meaningful. So thank you for all the work that you do. So again, please remember to put your questions either in the chat or in the Q&A. And I'm going to turn it over to Brandy Whitney, our speaker from New Life Community Ministries.
Good afternoon, everyone. Again, I'm Brandy Whitney, and thank you to NephCure and Lauren and Deja for being great partners and inviting us to be a part of this exciting panel. Next slide. So New Life Community Ministries, here we have the mission. We are, as we mentioned before, a faith-based organization that's a full service, social service organization. And because we are faith-based and Christian-centered, we really want to extend the practical, tangible compassion and love of Jesus in a transformative way to the people that we serve. And that includes clients who are unaffiliated with the church members, and also the community at large. Next slide. So just a profile, New Life has a very long history. We're in South DeKalb County, which is a part of a county located in Metro Atlanta, Georgia. We serve underserved clients and the working poor, so people can be unhoused, transitioning from employment, or just having fallen on hard times and are looking to the community center for additional support. One of our goals is, just to really revive hope and release possibilities to people by providing them different services, and also to give them what they need to be able to put their lives back together if they've fallen into a difficult place. We have over 25 integrated programs, everything ranging from education to some housing programs, food security, as you see there, and then also the health and wellness component. We've been doing this for a very long time. We're probably right at the 20-year mark, and we've served thousands and thousands and thousands of clients. One thing I'm very proud to say that during pandemic, New Life was only closed for a very short period of time during that mandatory lockdown. We opened right back up. And most of the work that is done there, we have a very small staff, is done by volunteers. And those volunteers came, some of them double and triple mass, because they knew there were people who needed the services and those services needed to continue to run regardless of the COVID pandemic. Next slide. So how we got into the health space, Lauren mentioned it before, they were having a conversation with Heal Collaborative, and Heal Collaborative is a national nonprofit working specifically with faith-based organizations and others around bringing health messages to communities of color through faith partnerships. And so New Life fit that profile, and then we have NephCure. So we're part of this three kind of relationship triad here. Next slide. So in the conversation about health, I know many of you may know this, but I like to bring this because it puts context to why we do what we do, the way we do it, the social determinants of health. So I won't read all these to you because it's very clear, but areas that we really focus on for the program with NephCure and the Heal Collaborative with healthcare access and quality. And we also really talk about social and community context. This is a big deal for New Life, that social and community context, because place matters, and the location of New Life and the way we deliver services is heavily tied to place, the physical location, and then also the place is in our posture and the way we attempt to serve individuals. Next slide. And so further into this, people live in communities. We don't live in isolation. I know COVID tried to do that to us, but we do better in communities. And so that's why we serve this way. So this image here just gives you a little bit to see kind of, if you look at the social, economic, and contextual factors, what's really weighing and where can we really make the most impact. A lot of emphasis is usually put on individual health behaviors. And as a health educator, that plays an important role, but there are sometimes lots of things that are far outside of an individual's personal everyday control. And so we really want to focus on that 40%, that education, the housing, the job, and those are big things, but they matter because someone can't really focus on their health and wellness if they're unemployed. That's not a priority for them. If they don't have housing, if they're dealing with legal issues or things like that. And then also at the bottom, the healthcare, our healthcare system, and how individuals who may have low health literacy or just low health access, how can they navigate the system, advocate for themselves, and feel more comfortable speaking up and being in places where they can get the help they need. Unfortunately, we love our doctors and our nurse practitioners and our PAs, but we wish we could have more and more and more Dr. Cobbs. But because we don't have that, we need to make sure that people feel comfortable, whomever their provider is sitting across from them, that they can speak up and share what they need and advocate for themselves. Next slide. So at New Life, we have 4 pillars. So housing, education, economic development, and health. And that's where this program fits in. Next slide. So our approach, we have been doing several things over the last 15 months, cooperative partnerships. So we've built intentionally partnerships that span different sectors, from nonprofit to government to federally qualified health centers, to the KD-SAP program that Dr. Cobb mentioned, to community-based organizations that are just doing good work, whether it's diabetes, dialysis, aging adults, young people. We're really trying to build this huge but intentional network of partners who their focus may not be health, but they're looking to us to be able to bring that to them because of the respect and relationship that New Life has in the community. Community engagement and outreach. New Life is very well known for the work that it does. It really doesn't have to do a lot of promotion, but we still do because people know that we do good work there and we do good service. So community engagement and outreach looks different. And that will kind of segue into targeted marketing and promotion. So I'll kind of tie those in together. But the engagement and outreach is done often in person. We do on-site education programs, pop-up events, and we also do extension where we go to community organizations and bring information. The targeted marketing fits in that because some organizations have gone strictly to digital, but we have intentionally stayed hybrid, and a lot of our things are done still in print because we have individuals that may have low access to technology, or they just may prefer paper or things in their hands. And so we do tailor our messaging to be to that audience and also the mode of dissemination to them as well. And then one thing that New Life does very well is direct services. It's heavily bent on direct services, meeting those everyday, practical, tangible needs. So we provide direct services like the screening events that Dr. Cobb mentioned. We've done also cooking classes and demos and lots of things, and then support through our Kidney Connection. Next slide. So here's a little bit about that. So on the top, you'll see the Kidney Connection, which is the all blue. That is our monthly peer community and support group. So it's an informal but educational group where we bring guest speakers, doctors, nurses, advocates to come to speak to individuals who are part of this group, and we learn together, we talk together. And our goal is to create a safe space so people can come and learn and grow into the work that grow into the health issue that they may be dealing with, and to see if they can have a community to support them and encourage them along the way. Then at the bottom, you have the I Heart My Kidney. This is one of the larger health events that we did early in the year, where we did a tandem where we tried to match the conversation of high blood pressure and cardiovascular disease alongside kidney disease. Many people don't correlate the risk factors of high blood pressure with kidney disease. And so we wanted to capitalize on that to elevate that. In this community, we see a lot of high blood pressure. And so that's a good entryway and entry point to start the conversation and to have the dialogue. If people don't identify themselves as being at risk for kidney disease, but if we enter that conversation talking about blood pressure, more than likely we're going to have a point of entry to begin to educate. The next one at the top, well, we did Minority Health Month. We did a special event on rare kidney disease. And again, we did another tandem program where we tried to introduce the idea of rare kidney disease with a rare disease that African Americans know very well, and that is sickle cell. And that is a disease that is very common and known and understood in the African American community. So to destigmatize some of the unusualness of some of the rare kidney diseases, we wanted to talk about it in tandem so they can understand it and destigmatize it and be able to see it in the same way that they know, recognize, and relate to sickle cell. And then the last one, Dr. Cobb also showed you, that is the kidney health screening event that we had this Saturday just passed. And that was with the Katie SAP group. It was a great event. Wonderful turnout. We're very excited. All of these events you see here, with the exception of the virtual support group, there is a screening component. So whether it's diabetes, high blood pressure, BMI, other kinds, there's always a consult with a clinician, whether it's a nurse practitioner, a PA, or a medical doctor. So we are very excited on this Saturday to be able to add the urinalysis to that, so that we could really get specifically down to that kidney health. We could get from just the risk factors to something that might really point us to whether or not individuals may be having some challenges with those kidneys. So we're really proud to be in that space. We're looking forward to doing more with Dr. Cobb. He has been a great friend of ours. We are now adopting Katie SAP. Those young ladies have worked really hard. I will say that they were just outstanding leaders. And even though they were students, they really grabbed the helm. And I can just say that has to be to Dr. Cobb's training and leadership, because they did an outstanding job. Next slide. And this is my contact information. And please put any questions you have for me in the chat, and I'll be glad to respond to those.
Thank you so much, Brandy. That was wonderful. And I think that what you had said about finding an entry point, like finding a disease that might be more common or familiar as a starting point, is really fascinating. And so thank you for sharing that. I'm just going to switch over slides. Chien-Chi Huang is going to present with us next. So thank you, Chien-Chi. Let me just share my screen.
Thank you, Lauren. Hello, everyone. My name is Chien-Chi Huang. I'm an immigrant from Taiwan and currently the founder and executive director of Asian Women for Health. I would just want to give you a brief intro of myself and my organization, and then we will try to explore a way for collaboration. So as Lauren pointed out before, I'm a breast cancer survivor turned patient advocate. And in 2010, I started the Asian Breast Cancer Project to train and other Asian women to deliver breast health education in Mandarin, Cantonese, and Vietnamese, because I realized that due to cultural and linguistic barrier, many Asian women cannot access the important information support in a timely fashion. So in 2012, a group of Asian women got together and we decided that we wanted to create a nonprofit organization. And we made a very conscious decision that we don't want to be a disease-specific program. We want to actively promote health, and not just physical health, but also emotional well-being. Next slide, please. So in 2012, we become Asian Women for Health, and we have a peer empowerment model, which is to educate, advocate, and reciprocate. So we are a peer-led, community-based network, and our mission is to advance Asian women's health and well-being through education, advocacy, and support. Next slide, please. So under educate, we do community outreach education. We participate in festivals, health fair, and we have created different health resources in Asian languages and on our website. And also since the pandemic, we were able to pivot and to do all the outreach education into online. And so we have a monthly webinar, and we have the pleasure of working with Dr. Lily Xiao. Earlier this year in March, we did a webinar on focusing on kidney disease. And one thing that we are very proud to do is that next year we will be launching a workforce development initiative to train and find jobs for Asian Americans and to as a community health workers. And so this is an upstream solution that we thought that we can diversify the healthcare industry and to help Asian Americans to navigate the complicated healthcare system in the United States. Next slide, please. We are also engaged in several advocacy projects. So one of them is that we are the East Regional Lead for the All of Us research project. So for those of you who may not know of the project, All of Us is an NIH-funded national study, and its aim is to collect over 1 million people's specimen, and they do very extensive lifestyle interview with the hope that with all these data, we will be able to enable researchers and scientists to find cure and predict diseases for us. So on the slide is a picture, is a campaign that we did in Massachusetts. So we did a wellness campaign on the transit on subway in Massachusetts, and we were able to showcase that, you know, although Asian Americans is a very diverse community, and we are, you know, but we are, we often have our own very unique wellness practice. And we use this as a way to frame the message and to encourage people to learn more about the All of Us project because our goal is to improve the representation of AAPI population in all clinical trial and research. Next slide, please. And finally, we have a wellness program called Achieving Whole Health, and we're always wanting to create a pipeline of future Asian leaders who can work as peer facilitator, peer health educator, and wellness coaches. And we have also have annual conferences. One is focusing on mental health, and one is on whatever urgent issues that Asian Americans are facing. And next year, our focus will be on data equity. And I'll be able to speak some more if folks are interested. I will put all the links to our website in the chat box so you can see it as resources. Next. So we do a lot, but I wanted to save the time for people to have ask questions, and so I'll put all the resources in the chat box. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much, Chien-Chi. I think the work that you're doing is so great, and just, you know, I love the personal connection to the work that you do, and also you know, the knowing how diverse these communities are. It sounds like you're doing really amazing work, bringing everyone together. So thank you. And so with that, again, please make sure that you put your questions in the chat, and I will now turn it over to Deja to present on the work that she's been doing.
Well, hi, everyone. I'll get started. My name is Deja. I'm Associate Director of Community Health here with NEPCure, and I'm very excited to share alongside these amazing panelists and talk about our health equity work. So you can go to the next slide. So I'll first begin with sharing about our integrated approach to our health equity initiative. Of course, we want to focus on outreach, and that would be to at-risk communities. Specifically, my work is focusing on health disparities in the Black community with FSGS and in the Asian American communities with IgA nephropathy. But also because NEPCure has been around for over 25 years, we already have a huge network of patients. So our work has also been focusing on in-reach to our patients of color. And then there's some overlap with communities of color. So I'll jump right in. So with our outreach, we really have been focusing on identifying and fostering strategic partnerships, and specifically in order to promote early education, screening, and detection for faster diagnoses of APOL1-mediated kidney disease, chronic kidney disease, that should be rare kidney disease, RKD, IgA nephropathy, as I mentioned, and FSGS. And then the way that we've really been trying to do our in-reach with our patients of color is uplifting diverse patient stories and perspectives, and also continuing to support access to expert care, treatments, and participation in clinical trials. And then the overlap is, you know, for communities of color, whether you're already a patient or you're just in the community, we really want to address unique community needs. We know that every community is different, whether we're talking about racial communities, you could say Hispanic versus African American or Black, where you are located geographically, or even your background and your culture. And with that, we really want to provide culturally relevant content and support access to resources and medical care, no matter where you're at on the spectrum. Next slide. So I'm going to share some specific examples about how we have been elevating patient advocates, raising awareness. Next slide. I'll first begin with our patient advocate and author, Sabrina Chow. Sabrina was diagnosed with minimal change disease when she was just a senior in high school. And we were able to connect her with Chien-Chi's amazing organization, Asian Women for Health. They have a podcast called Pathways from Resilience to Radiance that amplifies voices of Asian women and how they dealt with their health journey. And so Sabrina was able to share on a wide range of topics, including her kidney disease, having immigrant Chinese parents, how she proves there are health equity or health inequities related to language barriers, and then also the power of narrative and sharing your story as Sabrina is an author. Next slide. Next, I'll share about an FSGS panel that we hosted at the Black Health Matters Summit over the summer. We had 3 patient advocates join us. To my left in the picture, Brian Kennedy, he's a Grammy Award-winning music producer. He actually produced songs for Rihanna, Rascal Flatts, Kenny Chesney, Jennifer Hudson, a whole host of artists. And he was diagnosed with FSGS over 10 years ago. To his right, or left, I should say, in the middle, Joshua Albright. He is a sophomore at Georgia State University studying marketing. He was just diagnosed with FSGS last year. We often say he's one of the few success stories that we know of because he was almost immediately diagnosed with kidney disease, underwent a biopsy to find out it was FSGS, did a genetic testing and found out it was APOL1 mediated FSGS, and is now enrolled in a clinical trial. And then on the very end is Kevin Mott. He is a NephCure board member and longtime FSGS advocate who was diagnosed over 10 years ago. So it was really amazing to be able to talk with these three men about their journeys with FSGS. Specifically, I would say Joshua's journey for a patient who was just diagnosed last year versus Kevin Mott's journey 20 years ago. You see the vast difference in their interactions with their doctors. Kevin would be the first to say that he experienced racism and had to go through 4 different doctors before being properly diagnosed, which was very opposite than Joshua's experience. And they also shared very openly about how they talked to their families about their health history and their rare kidney disease, and then even stigmas around Black men and going to the doctor. As most of us know, that is a stigma that Black men don't like going to the doctor. And so they really delve into why that is and how they combat that. After we had the panel with Black Health Matters over the summer, they then launched their FSGS Fridays, which really offer articles and webinars specific to genetic testing, the benefits of clinical trials, but still acknowledging that there are deep-rooted issues and cultural norms within the Black community that could sometimes prevent us from wanting to engage, but yet offering that information to help people stay engaged. Next slide, please. So next, I'll talk a little bit about our community events and resources. So specifically with our I want to say AAPI, but I was actually informed that we should no longer be saying that. So AA and NHPI, which is Asian American and Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander group, we really wanted to develop a resource that was focused on the Chinese community. And luckily, we have an amazing consultant, Agnes Costello, who offered content to be able to create this flyer that you see to the right. And we were able to translate that into simplified and traditional Chinese characters to make it more accessible. And then we were able to co-brand and partner with API-AHF, which Princess shared at the beginning, and to vet this resource to make sure that it was actually providing the information that's helpful for this community, and also to promote it on a website where that audience is present. Next slide. Next, I'll talk a little bit about our culturally relevant resources for FSGS in the Black community. So as I've been interfacing with New Life and their amazing community of both clients and church members, we often get questions about, what's the difference between rare kidney disease and kidney disease? Because to them, it's all kidney disease. And so we had a resource that we co-developed, and it really focuses on that topic. And one of the things Randy and I talked about in great depth over the last few months is how infographics, which you'll see to the right with the little images, are much better for this specific community versus a lot of words. So we really started to draw back on using so many words and instead focus on these infographics and then very specific points. So in the beginning of the handout, you'll see that it shows 1 in 7 people have CKD, but 9 out of 10 people don't know they have it. And then it goes into some very specific rare kidney disease examples. Next, you'll see an image where it shows the progress of kidney disease, stages 1 through 5. And then it talks about how, regardless of the cause, whether it's a rare kidney disease cause, genetic cause, or diabetes or hypertension, everyone will undergo this progressive disease through the 5 stages, no matter what the cause is. And then lastly, it specifically called out FSGS in the Black community, highlighting that it affects about 40,000 people in the US, and that Black Americans are 5 times more likely than our white counterparts to get FSGS. Next slide. So next, this is a part of a series. We actually had a 3-part series of brochures that different people could come up to our table and receive. And this one was on screening and detection. It was especially useful for our last event that we had on Saturday. We were able to visually show people either the process they just underwent if they had already participated in urinalysis, or what they would go through if they were showing some interest. So it really calls out why protein in the urine is important, what the dipstick does, and then it ends with talking a little bit about nephrotic syndrome and what that threshold would look like as far as grams of protein present in the urine. And then next to it was some information about genetic testing, which was also very useful because we had a few CKD patients and one FSGS patient that was interested in that. Next slide. So I'll talk very, very briefly about what our journey has been like with New Life and Heal Collaborative this year. As Lauren mentioned, this health equity initiative was first started in 2019, and we were able to partner with both of these organizations in 2020, and now we're still continuing that work. So starting back in February, either myself or other NFCure staff attended their monthly health fairs, them being New Life. And we just started handing out resources, things like a fact sheet on FSGS, questions to ask your doctor about kidney health, and even tips on renal nutrition, which is especially important to me because I'm a dietitian. And what was really incredible to all of us was how New Life really took the helm with pioneering this kidney program. They hired a full-time person, that is Brandy, who has her NPH, to manage the core program, which, as you saw, stands for Kidney Outreach and Education. And then they also began their Kidney Connection community group, which is led by another staff person at New Life, and she has her master's of social work. And lastly, they also began a Health E, you can catch the pun, newsletter that they send out on a monthly basis. And another thing I would like to highlight was in June, we were able to offer a kidney risk quiz to the community. We had 33 participants, and as we looked at the results, 90% of the participants were moderate to high risk for kidney disease, yet 10% of the participants did not know what their kidney disease risk was before taking the quiz. And I feel like that informed all parties that, you know, screening might be a good option to consider. Next slide. So these are just a few photos. I won't go into great detail about the screening event because I know we're short on time today, but we did have 62 screening participants and we had 50 people participating in urinalysis. I just have to go ahead and say that Brady did an amazing job marketing this event. One of the women that we met, she actually had some financial issues taking care of her kidney disease. She was diagnosed earlier this year and she found the flyer outside of the library. I heard that the minister preached from the pulpit about the importance of kidney disease and highlighted that this event was happening on campus. And lastly, I'll share a very brief story about this lady. If you can see her, the picture in the bottom left, she's on the phone and she's actually talking to an FSGS patient. She was diagnosed with FSGS over 20 years ago, but due to a lot of different factors, she has not been able to maintain taking care of her kidney disease. And so we were very happy to meet her. Dr. Cobb immediately connected us with her after she told him that she had FSGS, and we're still in contact with her now. So we look forward to supporting her. Next slide. Okay, and lastly, I'll just share our model for outreach in the context of New Life and Heal Collaborative. So really, it was essential for us to create and foster a relationship with the pilot site. And I would add, I think everyone on our staff would add, just that the partner taking ownership of the program is so essential. I love being at New Life, we all do, but we can't be there every day or as often as we would like. And so the fact that they've done so many things to really build out this program, and Brandy was being very humble, but they have partnered with countless organizations, and it's essential that the partner really does take ownership over the program. Next, it's so important to have a nephrologist that is active in the community. This physician should have an interest and willingness to engage at the community level. Of course, we have a great partner in Dr. Cobb, who has been doing this for years, which is what his nurse practitioner told me on Saturday. And not only partners with actual organizations, but we'll go out to the mall and do screenings, which is incredible. Third, really educating and connecting with the community. We want to be able to co-create programming, events, and resources. People in these communities, you know, Brandy and I are both of African descent, but Brandy lives in that community. She's very aware of what the needs are. And so not only having a cultural overlap, but a geographical overlap with whoever your point of contact is so essential. And then lastly, just having a long-term investment. Nobody wants someone coming in and out of their community just getting what they're needing and then leaving. And so being consistent and having that long-standing commitment is very important. And I'm proud to say that next year will be the third year we'll be working with Heal and New Life. And then lastly, I would like to announce that NFCure is starting a coalition for Asian community outreach. This is going to be a combination of academic researchers at different universities across the nation. Of course, these are nephrology researchers, community leaders, people in the digital marketing space to really come together and talk about how we can do more outreach and AA and HPI communities, as we hear it's not a cultural norm, but we are still very much so ready to learn and be supportive of what is present. Thank you guys all so much for your time.
Great, thank you so much, Deja. That was wonderful. And so now we're just going to take it back to our full panel. And I hope that everyone is able to see all of our 5 panelists. I hope I'm doing it right still. I have a few questions that I'll just go through to ask our panelists. But again, please send additional questions in the chat so that we can answer them during this portion of the session. So I'll start with, let me just make sure you can see everybody. Okay, I think now you should be able to see all of the panelists. So let me just start. So Princess, you mentioned that API-AHF sends an annual survey to your network of community-based organizations, or CBOs, which is a new acronym for me. And so after sending the survey to your CBOs this year, what were some of the top issues that need to be addressed in the community, and what have the CBOs done to provide or to suggest solutions for those issues?
Yeah, so we're actually still analyzing the data, but some of the things that we've seen this year is the same that we've seen last year. They're providing a lot of different support and services around health programming, but something that we've seen often as well is they're providing translation services for non-health related items without dedicated funding. So they're doing a lot of work just without dedicated funding around education about healthy living, healthcare and referrals, healthcare coverage, education about health problems, and then other things that impact the social determinant of health. And so something that we also include at the end of the survey is if they would like to meet with the community engagement team, so my colleague and I, about what they've answered in the survey or any questions they have with the health forum. So it's an opportunity for us to kind of reconnect with some of the CPOs we haven't spoken with in a while and get to know what's actually impacting the communities they're serving. Some of the discussions we've had were like COFA migrants, what's impacting them, and how they're not receiving healthcare coverage, or how their community isn't recognizing, or their state doesn't recognize or kind of provide services for outreach enrollment. And so they are providing funding dedicated to that because their state isn't providing that additional funding for them during open enrollment season, which is right now. And so some solutions and just brainstorming ideas we've had with one another is, what type of policies can we advocate for in this coming year? What are ways that we can work together or connect them with other community-based organizations or CBOs that are in their state, and how we can work together to kind of move forward? Because sometimes it feels like we're working in silos, but really we're one community doing the work, and we want to make sure that we're not repeating work that we know other communities are doing. So just finding ways to collaborate and just brainstorm new ideas for the upcoming year.
That's great. And that's so vital to have an organization pulling everyone in together, because as you've said, there's often so many times there's like duplicative work happening. So what a great resource for all those community-based organizations. So thank you. My next question is for Brandy. So through your year-long work with the Kidney Core program, what are some of the greatest unmet needs that you've seen for kidney health in the community?
Yeah, I would say definitely uninsured or underinsured, and then just the lack of understanding of connecting that there are very few to no symptoms for kidney disease, and that people are not identifying that they may be at risk. And so that's why talking to them about health issues that are adjacent or tangential helps us open up and bridge that conversation. If I ask people, how many of you may have kidney disease, no one raises their hand. If I ask how many in this room have high blood pressure, 8 out of 10 are going to raise their hand. So that's what we do. But definitely I would say the uninsured, underinsured, and then those who are just walking around with really high blood pressure, unmanaged, not on meds, and just out of compliance with other health issues. I know Dr. Cobb mentioned that from on Saturday, he saw a lot of patients, not having a PCP and just out of pocket with any kind of care system. And so that's something that we try to support with the Kidney Connection. And what we want to do with the pilot of individuals who came through the screen this weekend is to do a light coach and case management with them, to follow up with them at a certain 30, 60, and 90 day to see if we can keep them in the loop so that we can help encourage them to do the follow-up that's been recommended by the doctor. So that is something that we're looking forward to in the new year, following up with those individuals, give them 30 days, see what they've been able to accomplish, and then see if we can partner with them, walk alongside them to see if we can get those things managed and addressed, and definitely seeing a PCP, and then hopefully that PCP can get them to a nephrologist. Many of them don't know what a nephrologist is. You know, when we made the flyer, I didn't say just urine analysis. I specifically said kidney urine test or something to that effect. I needed to be very specific in plain language about that so that people could understand, you know. So having to be mindful of the kind of language that we use as well so that people can connect and engage and relate.
That's great. Thank you, Brandy. And there's a question from the audience from Glenda. To what extent do you work with other religious organizations to expand your program to locations across the country?
So we haven't at this moment. We do have collaboration with other, I would call them like sister churches that are in the vicinity that serve the same area. We have relationships with them, but we haven't extended to other faith-based organizations with this program outside of our county. New Life serves all of Metro Atlanta, so individuals do not have to live in this community or zip code to be served. But it does, you know, most people do live in close proximity because many have transportation limitations or so forth, or they attend the church, so it's already their kind of their place of home and recognition. But because a New Life does have a well-respected trustworthiness in their name, I don't see why it would be a challenge for us to extend this. And there's lots of lessons learned and best practices. And so I'm open to documenting and sharing those with organizations of other, you know, other faiths and, you know, Christian faiths that may be interested in how to do this in their location.
Yeah, I think the New Life model is really fascinating because I think that all of the programs that you mentioned, even just something as small as that kidney health coach that you've really created as a follow-up to this screening event is, you know, you've really thought of everything along every step of someone's journey about how you can keep them engaged and keep them focused on their healthcare. So I think that
I would
get the
add
message out.
to Dr. Cobb's point, capacity does matter. So I will go back to my previous life. I did a lot of work funding and supporting nonprofits, and oftentimes they have a good heart and a good desire, but they don't have the infrastructure, the capacity to be able to do it. And so they can falter in implementing because they don't have the internal resources to be able to carry the weight of it. And so that is something that, you know, an organization of faith-based may have the desire, but if they don't have the internal capacity, how can they partner with and leverage maybe their people power with another church down the street or another organization? Because we don't have to own everything, right? We are a community, and we know in most communities there are multiple faith-based organizations on 1-2 mile block. So just thinking with my public health hat, I think making sure that those organizations that are identified have the capacity to be able to do it. And it may not be at the New Life level, but whatever level they're envisioning, that they understand what they're going to need to invest, and not just fiscally, but of their time, their commitment, their resources, and their willingness to grow and adapt to implement a new program that they may have never done before.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I have another question for Chien-Chi. So the Asian Women's Health, Asian Women for Health is working with the All of Us program with the NIH, which aims to get people of color to participate in research. And from your perspective, what is working well with the Wellness for All of Us campaign to improve engagement?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think what's working well, and just like Brandy said, I think language matters. I think oftentimes when we're trying to engage the community, we need to take into consideration what's their perspective, you know, and we need to create campaign that's culturally responsive with the appropriate language. Like for the All of Us project, we have assets in different Asian languages, and we also were doing the media campaign working with local ethnic media, like the Chinese newspaper, and also oftentimes different community have population-specific language communication channels. So, for example, a lot of Chinese use WeChat for gathering information, for disseminating information, and Koreans have a different, chat platform, and so Japanese and Taiwanese use Line, and Vietnamese use, I believe, Zola. Yeah, so there are different resources available out there, and that's why every time when I hear people say that, oh, we have a difficult time to reach the hard to reach population, but I always cringe and I say, it's not that they're hard to reach, it's they're hardly to reach. So there are specific communication channels, and the key is to work with, like Brandy said, trusted community-based organizations to create content, to create materials that's culturally responsive. And I would say that, again, we should make the material more like asset-based, like focusing on the merits or the strength of the community, and also make it family oriented, instead of individual, because in the Asian community, we consider family as a unit. So they might not do things because of for their own sake. But if you say that, if you frame in a way, do this, so it will benefit your family and your friends, you will have a better time. And I also failed to mention that I serve on the many local and national advisory committee, and so one of the things that I'm working on is I'm working with Tufts University to create a training video to train researchers how to do a proper informed consent process. And we do role play. So I will play a patient who doesn't speak English, and yeah, it was a very interesting process. And I also can direct folks to different resources for, there's guide to teach researchers how to engage community more fairly or equitably. So, I'd be happy to send all this information afterwards.
That would be great. And just to jump off of something you said about the family unit being kind of an entry point to talk about health, I think that's really interesting. And I just wanted to bring up something that Brandy had done with New Life. They give out food pantry boxes. And Brandy, you did this thing last Thanksgiving, a year ago. If you want to just share that really quickly.
Yes, November is National Family Health History Month. And so we made, we give out, 1,500 to 2,000 food boxes every year, part of our community outreach. And so we created an insert that went to every family that talked about the importance of discussing your family health history. People gather together around the holiday season, be it Thanksgiving or Christmas or whatever, just their own informal seasonal gathering, to have those conversations. It doesn't have to be dark, it doesn't have to be morbid, but just to begin to talk about it. And as you learn things about your family, because people say, oh, I didn't realize I had so many people in my family that were on dialysis, and they never make the connection that maybe there's something there. Maybe this is something that we need to be having a conversation about. So that was one of our very first campaigns after our launch. We did that awareness campaign around, and we used ACT. So ask your family, talk, collect the information, write it down, document it someplace, and then talk to your doctor about it. So again, going back to Child's point that using short things that people can remember. So it's ACT. It was directive, ask, collect, talk. And so we were really proud of that as our initial campaign.
Yeah, I love that. And I love finding these sort of entry points that are accessible and sort of, as you said, it can be, friendly and fun, and it doesn't have to be a scary conversation or serious.
Mm-hmm.
And so Dr. Cobb, so we heard from your nurse practitioner that you have been engaging in these urinalysis and screening events for years. So what are some of the best practices that you've developed over the years to do an effective community kidney screening event?
So really picking great partners. And when we also, if you have something else that the people are coming to the screening event for, I'm passionate about kidney disease. I think everyone should get checked out for kidney disease. But if you can have another incentive like New Life having the food pantry, I think really works. Other churches we have that have like a flea market day where people are selling other items while they shopping, they could get a screening to the side. I think that really helps to keep the audience captivated. When we're at the malls, a lot of times we are not just doing health screenings. We have nutritionists cooking. We had entertainers before who are singing in the mall and bring attention to the screening event. So I think that has really helped. Definitely having like a relationship, like I said, that's mutually beneficial. We don't come in one time and never see that partner again. I think every church that we have worked with, each mall that we have worked with, we've done at least 2 or 3 screenings and plan to keep working with them long term.
I agree. I think that's so important, Dr. Cobb. And so I have a question for all of the panelists to think about and please answer. Can trial participation be considered an incentive to someone who is or underinsured because it would be giving them access to a standard of care healthcare? Any thoughts?
Yes, I'm not exactly sure about it in a screening event, but definitely in our clinical practice, patients who needed a kidney biopsy, we've been able to get them into that study I talked about. They got their kidney biopsy funded when they didn't have insurance, access to other medications, because a lot of the industry partners have funding programs, for especially some of the newer medications. So definitely in clinic, we definitely offer trial participation.
In clinic. And I'm curious if you don't, sorry to put you on the spot, but could you speak to, why not at a screening event? Just the complexity of that, or?
A lot of times we don't have access to medical records. Like the patient with FSGS, we don't have documentation of that. I think we had access to medical records. We probably could offer that more of a screening event, but we can hook that person up with NephCure or my office and get them in.
Thank you. Any other thoughts from any of the other panelists? Has anyone?
I think that it could happen, like Dr. Cobb says, but it's going to require an additional point of education to make sure someone's there to explain to them what is a clinical trial and to be prepared to answer those rubbing points, around data and around health information and around trustworthiness of sharing a lot of information with a third, fourth, or fifth party. So I think having the information there is one thing, but I think having someone who is comfortable and conversating with individuals about how to get them past their questions, I think would be important to have on site.
Absolutely. It's just having that thoughtfulness to further, build out that program. So I think that's great, Randy. And Chien-Chi, to what extent does the Asian Women for Health have representation in all states in the United States? And what can patient advocates do to help expand your reach?
Like I said, we, since we were able to pivot to do our webinar virtually, we had people from all different states to come to our conferences and events. So I think the best thing the patient advocate can do is to just, share your story. Video is very powerful in this time and age. I think this is the most direct way, most engaging way that we can move people into action. So if you have a story to tell, definitely, find a channel to do it, to share.
Absolutely. And could you just speak quickly to the ambassador program that you mentioned, that you're training college students to do outreach education in the community? Because I think that for me, at least, being in person this past Saturday and really seeing the work that Dr. Cobb and Brandy had done to engage with these college chapters to really do the screening it was so effective.
Yeah, so we have worked with college students on a variety of projects, and the newest one is the ambassador program. So we're in the process of creating a curriculum so we can train college students to talk about the health disparities that Asian Americans are experiencing, and also why is it important for us to take part in clinical trial and research. And we are tying this to our data equity efforts. We will have different student group to, one group may be working on creating an Asian disparity fact sheets, or, and then the other group may be working on a, social media campaign, and then another one may help us, to do to table at community events. The downside of working with college students is that, we have to repeat this over and over again, because once the student graduate, they move on. So yeah, that's if anybody have any, like expertise on how to sustain and work with college students, please let us know.
And I would plug in to say, I would love to have a graduate student, a master's of public health student who would be willing to take on our project for their thesis. That's 2 full years of working on this. They have to produce a pretty substantial paper. They would have an advisor. So the kind of literature review and, just robust work that would go behind the scenes. So if any of you know anyone in Atlanta or otherwise that may be interested in, I would really like to see, when I was in grad school, we had some individuals who were getting their dual MPH and MD. So they had a unique perspective, right? They were thinking about it from both a public health and a clinical perspective, or even social work. So I think that's another way as well to find out, because they all need some kind of research project and they're looking for something that they can kind of own and take ownership of. So I'm searching for that person. Idea. So if you know someone, send them my way.
I love that idea, Brandy. And just to turn it back over to Deja, a large part of your health equity work is working alongside other organizations, clinicians, and patients. And how do you go about partnering or collaborating? What's your method?
Well, I definitely look for people or partners that are already doing the kind of work that we want to be involved in. So I think just screening through your options first is important, but then also just finding a common point. When I went on IPIAHF's website, it was very obvious it had a ton of resources and a ton of different options for languages. So it was no brainer trying to collaborate with them on a resource. With Asian Women for Health, I saw their podcast and I knew between the staff members that we knew somebody of Asian descent, a woman of Asian descent who would want to share her kidney disease story. And the list goes on and on. So I think really just finding a great partner doing great work and then finding a common point.
That's great. I love that. And one last question for the panel. So from the audience, so relative to trust of the healthcare and research community, can you speak to how various cultural groups view the work of these professionals and what can be done to improve trust and reduce distrust? So I'll just go around and have everybody quickly answer. So Chien-Chi, if you want to start.
Sure. I think that, the first step is, if you want to earn the trust of the community, you have to be trustworthy in the first place. I think that Dr. Cobb mentioned in the past, earlier, that, the community member, you need to create an equitable partnership so that the community partners can trust you, right? And that you're not just coming here, do your research, and then you left, right? You need to really build and invest in the community and build a capacity so we can be your partner, not just, the last minute and can you write us a letter of support, right? We need to spend time and invest money and resources to build relationship, build the capacity, and that's how everything should be done.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chien-Chi. Princess May, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, and just building up what Chien-Chi mentioned, relationships matter. So who you are in the community and how you're serving the community that you're claiming to serve is extremely important. But also I found in a lot of A and NGI communities, it's important to have leaders, doctors, nurses, everyone in the health field who actually understand the community they are serving, who are culturally humble and willing to learn and being able to approach them knowing, okay, here are some cultural factors impacting their health, or what are some barriers they're experiencing, and being able to approach those communities in that way. But also just having leaders who are part of their communities also what I found most important, because they already trust people in their community. So there's that automatic trust, and sometimes you don't even have to build it because they know, they understand what's going on within their own health problems or just their lives in general.
Absolutely. Thank you, Princess May. Dr. Cobb, you have a maybe personal experience with this?
Definitely genuine relationships, and you always can't be a member of the community, but at least having a community partner that works with you from the community really helps with trust. And even for like our students, they go through professional development. They all been taught about kidney disease, APOL1. They've been getting professional development about how to relate to that certain community. So I think really take time doing that in preparation to the event ahead of time really helps too.
Absolutely. And Brandy?
Yeah, and I would say two-part from an organizational perspective, those who are seeking to work with the organization, be upfront about, your plans, what you intend to do with the data, how you want to engage, because then that creates the trust from the beginning, and we can talk about what might work or what may not work from that, and we can kind of negotiate and pivot depending on everybody's needs, kind of what's in it for me. And so I think that's really important. And once that, we keep saying trust, but once that trust is established, then it can be transferable. For instance, New Life does a healthy gatekeeping. We ask a lot of questions of our partners. We really, really do. And that's because anyone who comes to New Life, our clients and our church, they know when they've come, if they're coming to receive a service, that those partners have already gone through a bit of a vetting process. So they're more likely to engage with Dr. Cobb because they already know that Dr. Cobb would not be there had the New Life staff, team, the church, and all the partners done our due diligence. We don't invite people with just one phone call and one email, hey, can we show up? That's not how it works. That's not how it works at all. And that's not us not wanting to work with people, but we understand that, particularly as a faith-based organization, we are shepherding. So we have a responsibility to be like a shepherd, to care for and to look after these people, particularly because many of them are vulnerable. They're in unique, tough situations in their lives. And so for us to bring in people who don't have their best interest or may have some ulterior motives that they haven't, shared, would just be disheartening for us and the way we want to caretake for them. So I would say as an organization, just be clear, this is what we're looking for, this is what we want, be open for feedback, be willing to answer all the questions about the complicated things, the messy things. And once we can do those things together, then it's all good. And then for the organization, for the individual side, I go back to what my colleague says, absolutely showing up, just showing your face, being personable, being humble, and knowing where your technical expertise ends and your cultural sensitivity. You may be technically expert at something, but if you don't know that community, that's okay, but lean on other people who do.
Absolutely. And I just want to say that was one of the biggest aha moments, or just biggest things for me to learn in doing this work, is that there are, by design, multiple levels of sort of gates or protection around reaching certain communities, as it should be. And so that's been really eye-opening for us to be working through. And so Deja, can you please close it out? Some final words.
Yeah, my 3 words would be listen, listen, and listen. Allow people to be experts in their own lives and share their experiences, their hesitations, their motivations with you. If you do that, I think that's the beginning of building trust, and you can better understand what their needs or desires are.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you to our panelists, and thank you to the audience members for so many great questions. Have a great afternoon.
And thank you to NephCure.
Thanks, Brandy. Bye.